I stood on that patch of abandoned land overlooking the sea, staring at what was supposed to be our beachfront resort, the dream Rochelle and I had built together over 6 months of planning, designing, and investing. But all I saw was a half-built bamboo hut, rusted construction equipment, and angry workers who claimed they hadn't been paid in weeks. And in that moment, I understood that the woman I'd planned to marry, the woman I'd given $700,000 to, had never existed at all. The tropical sun burned against my neck. The waves crashed rhythmically below the cliff. Somewhere behind me, a worker shouted in Cebuano, gesturing angrily at the empty site. I didn't need a translation. I understood the message clearly enough. I'm 62 years old. I'd worked construction for 35 years, managed million-dollar projects, built structures that still stand decades later. I knew how to read blueprints, assess contractors, spot bad investments. And yet here I stood, staring at nothing, holding fake land deeds and government permits that looked so real I'd never question them. $700,000. Everything I'd saved, everything I'd worked for, gone. Rochelle was gone too. Her phone disconnected, her Facebook deleted, her apartment emptied. Even her family, the mother and sisters I'd met over video calls, the nephew whose school fees I'd paid had vanished like smoke. I felt my knees buckle. I sat down hard on a pile of cinder blocks, my hands shaking, my vision blurring. Around me, life continued. Birds called from the palm trees. Motorcycles buzzed along the coastal road. Vendors sold coconuts to tourists who had no idea what was happening, just a few hundred meters away. But for me, everything had stopped. I was broke, stranded, and completely, utterly destroyed. If you've been enjoying the stories I create, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Your support is crucial for the growth of this channel and helps me dedicate time to making these videos despite my commitment to a full-time job. Thank you for being here. Denver in March still carried winter's bite. I remember standing in my driveway, watching the moving truck pull away with the last of my furniture, thinking this was it, the end of 35 years in one place, one life, one version of myself. My name is James Harrington. Everyone calls me Jim. I'd spent my entire adult life in construction, started as a framer right out of high school, worked my way up to project manager, eventually started my own small contracting company, specializing in residential renovations. It was good, honest work. I built decks, finished basements, managed crews, dealt with permits and inspectors and clients who changed their minds halfway through projects. The money was decent. I bought a 3-bedroom house in Aurora, got married at 28, had 2 kids. But somewhere along the way, things fell apart. My wife, Susan, left me 3 years ago. She said I worked too much, that I was emotionally unavailable, that we'd become strangers living in the same house. She wasn't wrong. I'd spent decades focused on work, on providing, on keeping the business afloat. When she filed for divorce, I didn't fight it. I was tired. The kids, both in their 30s, now had their own lives. My daughter Rachel lived in Seattle with her husband and 2 kids. My son Tyler was in Chicago, working in finance. We talked maybe once a month, brief, surface-level conversations. They didn't need me anymore. After the divorce, I rattled around in that house alone for 2 years. Every room held memories I didn't want to revisit. Eventually, I decided to sell everything, the house, the business, all of it. I was 61. I had $700,000 in savings and retirement accounts. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to retire somewhere affordable, somewhere I could stretch that money for the rest of my life. I didn't want to stay in Colorado. Too cold. Too many reminders of a life that hadn't turned out the way I'd planned. I started researching retirement destinations. Mexico, Costa Rica, Thailand, the Philippines. I joined Facebook groups, watched YouTube videos, read blogs. The Philippines kept coming up. Incredibly low cost of living, beautiful beaches, English-speaking population, friendly culture. One video showed an American retiree living in Cebu. He rented a beachfront house for $300 a month, ate out for $2 a meal, and talked about how respectful and kind Filipino people were to elders. "You're treated with dignity here," he said. "People value family, respect, loyalty. It's like going back in time to when those things mattered." That resonated with me. I wanted to feel valued again, respected, like my presence mattered. I joined a Facebook group called Expats in Cebu and started asking questions about housing, visas, and daily life. The members were helpful, sharing tips and warnings in equal measure. One of the warnings stuck with me. Be careful with relationships. There are women here who see dollar signs, not people. I told myself I wasn't interested in relationships anyway. I was done with that. I just wanted peace and affordability. Famous last words. I posted in the Facebook group asking for recommendations on housing in Cebu, specifically safe neighborhoods, reasonable rent, and proximity to amenities. Within an hour, I had a dozen replies. One caught my attention. Hi, Jim. Welcome to Cebu soon. I'm Rochelle, originally from here. If you need help finding a place or understanding the local rental process, feel free to message me. No charge, just happy to help a new expat get settled. Good luck. Her profile picture showed a smiling woman with shoulder-length dark hair, dressed casually in a t-shirt and jeans. No heavy makeup, no provocative pose. She looked normal, approachable. I clicked on her profile. Rochelle Navarro, 31 years old. Her page showed photos of beaches, food, family gatherings. Nothing flashy. In one photo, she stood in front of a small cafe with a hand-painted sign, Chel's Place. I sent her a message. Thanks for the offer, Rochelle. I'm planning to move to Cebu in about 2 months. Any advice on neighborhoods would be great. She replied within an hour. Hi, Jim. Happy to help. What's your budget and what are you looking for? Quiet, near the beach, close to malls? We messaged back and forth over the next few days. She was knowledgeable without being pushy, offering suggestions for neighborhoods, explaining the difference between condos and apartments, warning me about common scams landlords ran on foreigners. Always ask to see the actual property before paying any deposit, she wrote, and make sure the lease is in writing. Some landlords try to change terms after you move in. She never asked about my finances, never flirted, never hinted at anything beyond helping a stranger navigate a new country. After a week of messaging, she suggested a video call. It might be easier to explain some things face to face. Plus, I can show you pictures of different areas. I agreed. The first video call was awkward on my end. I'd never been comfortable on camera. But Rochelle was natural, friendly, sitting in what looked like a small, tidy living room. Behind her, I could see a couch, some plants, a cross hanging on the wall. So Jim, tell me about yourself. What brings you to the Philippines? I told her about my work, the divorce, the desire for a fresh start. She listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally. I'm sorry about your divorce. That must have been difficult. It was what it was, I said, uncomfortable with sympathy. I'm just ready for the next chapter. I understand that feeling, she said. I've had my own disappointments, but the Philippines is a good place to start over. People here believe in second chances. We talked for over an hour. She showed me photos of different neighborhoods on her phone, explained public transportation, talked about cultural differences I should be aware of. When the call ended, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hopeful. Over the next month, Rochelle and I talked almost daily. Sometimes text, sometimes video calls. The conversations shifted from practical advice to personal topics. She told me about her life. She'd grown up in a small province outside Cebu City. Her father had been a jeepney driver who died in an accident when she was 16. Her mother still lived in the province, helping raise Rochelle's 2 younger sisters and a nephew whose parents had abandoned him. Rochelle had moved to the city at 18, worked various jobs, waitress, call center agent, hotel receptionist, before saving enough to open a small beach cafe near Mactan Island. It's not much, she said, showing me photos. Just a little place selling coffee, sandwiches, halo. But it's mine. The cafe was simple, a wooden structure with a thatched roof, a few plastic tables and chairs, a hand-painted menu board. It looked genuine, modest, real. Do you make enough to live on? I asked. She shrugged. Some months are better than others. Tourist season is good. Off-season is harder. But I manage. I send money home to my mother when I can. I admired her independence. She wasn't complaining or asking for sympathy, just stating facts. She asked about my life too. What it was like managing construction projects. What Colorado looked like. Whether I missed my kids. That last question hit harder than I expected. Yeah, I admitted, but they have their own lives. I'm just background noise at this point. That's sad, Rochelle said softly. Family should be close. It is what it is. Maybe when you come here, you'll find a new kind of family. Filipino people are very welcoming. I liked the sound of that. By the time I booked my flight to Cebu, Rochelle felt like a friend. Not a romantic interest, just someone who understood what I was looking for and genuinely wanted to help. She offered to pick me up from the airport. You shouldn't have to navigate taxis on your first day. Let me help. I hesitated. I didn't want to impose. It's no imposition, she insisted. Besides, I want to meet you in person. Make sure you're real and not some creepy guy. I laughed. Fair enough. I landed at Mactangent Cebu International Airport on a humid afternoon in late April. The heat hit me the moment I stepped outside. Thick, wet, clinging. But it wasn't unpleasant. It felt alive. Rochelle was waiting in the arrivals area, holding a small handwritten sign, "Welcome, Jim." She looked exactly like her photos. No filters, no deception. She wore a simple yellow sundress and sandals, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. "You made it," she said, smiling as I approached. I did. We hugged briefly, polite, friendly, nothing more. She'd arranged for a taxi to take us to the apartment she'd found for me. During the drive, she pointed out landmarks, explained the layout of the city, warned me about which areas to avoid at night. The apartment was in a neighborhood called Lahug, close enough to the city center to be convenient, but quiet enough to feel residential. It was a small, one-bedroom unit in a low-rise building, furnished with basic furniture. Rent was 9,000 pesos a month, about $170. "What do you think?" Rochelle asked as I looked around. "It's perfect." She helped me settle in over the next few days, took me to grocery stores, showed me where to buy water refills, introduced me to the building's caretaker. She refused payment for her time. "I'm just being a good neighbor," she said. We spent time together naturally. She'd stop by after closing her cafe, and we'd have dinner at nearby restaurants. She taught me basic Cebuano phrases, laughed when I mispronounced them, corrected me gently. One evening, we sat at her cafe after hours. The beach was empty, the sun setting in brilliant orange and pink. She'd made us coffee and ensaymada, sweet Filipino bread rolls. "I have to say," I told her, "you've made this transition so much easier than I expected." She smiled. "I'm glad. I know what it's like to be alone in a new place. When I first moved to the city, I didn't know anyone. I was scared and homesick. Someone helped me back then. I'm just passing it forward." "Well, I appreciate it." She looked out at the water, her expression thoughtful. "Can I ask you something, Jim?" "Sure. Why did you really come here? I know you said fresh start, but what are you looking for?" I thought about the question. Honestly, I think I'm looking to feel like I matter again, like my presence makes a difference to someone. Rochelle nodded slowly. "I understand that. I feel that way sometimes too, like I'm just existing, not really living." "Exactly." She turned to face me. "Maybe we can help each other with that." It wasn't flirtation. It was genuine connection. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. Over the next 2 months, Rochelle and I grew closer. Not romantically at first, just two people who understood each other's loneliness and found comfort in companionship. We spent almost every day together. I'd visit her cafe in the mornings, sit at one of the plastic tables, drink coffee, and watch the tourists trickle in. Business was inconsistent. Some days she'd have a dozen customers, other days almost none. One afternoon, she sat down across from me, looking frustrated. "Bad day?" I asked. "Not bad, just, I don't know. I feel like I'm stuck. The cafe does okay, but it's never going to be more than just okay. I have dreams, but no way to make them real." "What kind of dreams?" She hesitated, then spoke. "I want to expand. Turn this into something bigger, a real beachfront resort. Not huge, just small and nice. Maybe 10 rooms, a restaurant, a dive shop. Something that could actually support my family and give me security." "That's a solid business idea. Have you looked into it?" "I've thought about it constantly. I even have plans drawn up." She pulled out a worn notebook from behind the counter, flipping through pages of sketches and notes. "See? I've been working on this for 2 years." The drawings were detailed layout plans, room designs, budget estimates. She'd clearly put serious thought into it. "This is impressive, Rochelle. It's just a dream. I don't have the money to make it real. Even with a loan, I'd need collateral, and I don't have that either." "How much would something like this cost?" She sighed. "To buy the land, build the structures, furnish everything, handle permits and licenses, maybe 20 million pesos, about $370,000. I did the mental math. It was a significant amount, but not impossible. I had 700,000 in savings. If the business was legitimate and profitable, it could be a smart investment. But I said nothing. Not yet. I didn't want her to think I was trying to buy my way into her life. Over the following weeks, though, the idea grew in my mind. What if I helped her? What if we became partners, built something together that secured both our futures? One evening, as we sat on the beach watching the sunset, I brought it up. Rochelle, I've been thinking about your resort idea. Yeah? What if we did it together? You have the knowledge, the plans, the local connections. I have capital and construction experience. We could be partners. She looked at me, eyes wide. Jim, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now. Just think about it. We could build something real, something that lasts. She was quiet for a long moment, then spoke softly. Are you sure? That's a lot of money, a lot of trust. I trust you, Rochelle, and I believe in this idea. Tears filled her eyes. No one's ever believed in me like this. Well, I do. She hugged me tightly, and I felt something shift. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was about building a future together. We spent the next month planning. Rochelle showed me potential properties, beachfront lots that were available for purchase. We visited several, evaluating location, access, and potential for development. We finally settled on a 2,000 square meter lot near Cordova, overlooking a pristine stretch of white sand beach. The asking price was 8 million pesos, about $148,000. Rochelle explained that, as a foreigner, I couldn't own land in the Philippines, but I could own the structures built on it. The land would be in her name, but we'd have a legal partnership agreement protecting my investment. She introduced me to a lawyer, attorney Ramon Cruz, a professional-looking man in his 50s who operated from an office in downtown Cebu. He explained the legal framework, drafted partnership documents, and assured me everything was above board. This is standard practice, Attorney Cruz said. Many expats invest this way. As long as you have proper contracts, you're protected. I reviewed the documents carefully. Everything seemed legitimate: partnership agreements, land purchase contracts, business registration papers. I transferred $148,000 to complete the land purchase. The title was registered under Rochelle's name, with our partnership agreement filed as supporting documentation. Next came the construction phase. Rochelle had already contacted contractors, gotten estimates, and planned the timeline. The total cost for building 10 rooms, a restaurant structure, bathrooms, and infrastructure was projected at 12 million pesos, about $222,000. I transferred the money in stages: first for site preparation and foundation work, then for framing and walls, then for roofing and finishes. Rochelle provided regular updates. She sent photos of workers clearing the land, pouring concrete, building walls. She showed me receipts, invoices, and progress reports. Everything looked legitimate. By month 4, I'd transferred a total of $530,000. My savings account, once holding $700,000, now showed $170,000. I told myself it was fine. This was an investment. Once the resort opened, we'd recoup the money and generate steady income. Rochelle and I were talking about marriage. She'd introduced me to her family over video calls: her mother, her sisters, her nephew. They all welcomed me warmly, calling me Kuya Jim and thanking me for helping their family. We even printed business cards: Paradise Cove Resort, proprietors, Rochelle Navarro and James Harrington. I felt proud. I felt purposeful. For the first time in years, I felt like I was building something that mattered. I should have known it was too good to be true. In month 5, things started to feel off. Rochelle became harder to reach. She'd always been responsive, answering calls and messages within minutes. But now, she'd go hours without responding, sometimes a full day. When I asked what was wrong, she explained she was overwhelmed managing the construction, dealing with contractors, and handling permit issues. There are so many complications, Jim. The local government is asking for additional fees. The contractors are demanding more money. It's exhausting. How much more do they need? Another 3 million pesos, about $55,000, for permits, inspections, and contractor payments. I hesitated. I'd already spent $530,000. I had $170,000 left. If I transferred $55,000 more, I'd be left with $115,000, and I still needed to live on that money. Rochelle, I'm running low on funds. Are you sure we need that much more? She looked stressed, almost angry. Jim, Do you think I want to ask you for more money? I hate this. But if we don't pay these fees, the whole project gets shut down. Everything we've invested will be wasted. Okay, I'll transfer it. I did. $55,000, leaving me with $115,000. 2 weeks later, she needed more. $50,000 for electrical work, then $30,000 for plumbing, then $20,000 for landscaping. Each time she had explanations, receipts, urgent reasons. Each time I transferred the money. By month 6, I'd transferred $690,000. I had $10,000 left in my savings account. I was financially tapped out. When I told Rochelle I couldn't give more, she seemed understanding. It's okay, Jim. We're almost done. Just a few more weeks, and we can start operations. Can I visit the site? I asked. I hadn't been there in over a month. She'd always said it was too dangerous with construction happening, but now that we were almost finished, I wanted to see it. Of course. Let's go this weekend. But that weekend, she canceled. Family emergency. Her mother was sick. The following weekend, she canceled again. She was sick herself. The third weekend, I went alone. I hired a driver to take me to the property in Cordova. The drive took about 40 minutes from my apartment. When we arrived at the address listed on the land deed, my stomach dropped. There was no resort, no 10 rooms, no restaurant, no infrastructure. There was a half-built bamboo hut, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, sitting on an overgrown lot. Rusted construction equipment lay abandoned. Concrete bags, torn and hardened by rain, were scattered around. 3 workers sat in the shade, smoking cigarettes. I approached them. "Excuse me, is this the Paradise Cove resort site?" One of the men looked at me blankly. "Paradise Cove? No, sir. This is just a storage area. Who hired you to work here?" "We were hired 6 months ago by a woman named Rochelle, but she stopped paying us after 2 months. We've been waiting for our money." My blood turned cold. "How much does she owe you?" 300,000 pesos, about $5,500. I felt dizzy. "Do you know where she is?" "No, sir." She stopped answering our calls. I called Rochelle immediately. The number was disconnected. I checked Facebook. Her profile was gone. I went to her cafe. It was closed. A faded "for rent" sign taped to the door. I went to her apartment. The landlord said she'd moved out 2 weeks ago. Did she leave a forwarding address? No, sir. She paid 2 months in advance and left without notice. I drove to the municipal office in Cordova, still clutching the land deed. I asked to verify the property registration. The clerk searched the system, then looked up at me with confusion. "Sir, this land is registered to a different owner, not Rochelle Navarro." "What? That's impossible. I have the deed right here." The clerk examined it, then shook his head. "This is a forgery, sir. The seals are fake. This document was never issued by this office." The room spun. "Are you saying none of this is real?" "I'm sorry, sir. You've been scammed." I went to the police. I sat in a small, hot office, explaining the situation to an officer who listened with barely concealed disinterest. "How much money did you give her?" $690,000. The officer's eyebrows rose. "That's a lot, sir. I know. I need to file a report. I need to find her. Do you have proof she committed fraud?" "I have contracts, receipts, everything." The officer reviewed the documents, then sighed. "Sir, these look legitimate. It's going to be hard to prove fraud. You gave the money willingly, yes?" "Yes, but for a specific purpose. She lied about everything. That may be true, but proving it in court will be difficult and expensive, and even if you win, recovering the money is unlikely." I stared at him in disbelief. "So you're saying there's nothing you can do? We can take a report. We can try to locate her, but I won't lie to you, these cases rarely result in recovery." I left the station feeling hollow. Over the next week, I learned the full extent of the scam through the expat community. Another American, a man named Gerald, contacted me. "I heard what happened to you. She did the same thing to me 2 years ago. Different business story, but same method. I lost 80,000. Did you ever find her?" "No. She uses different names, different identities. She works with a network. The lawyer you met? Probably part of it. The family you saw on video calls? Actors. Her mother? Her sisters? All fake." I felt physically ill. Gerald continued. "She's probably already on a different island, or even abroad, running the same scam on someone else." I tried contacting Attorney Cruz. His office was closed. The number disconnected. I tried reaching Rochelle's family. Every number I had was disconnected or blocked. Everyone had vanished. I was left with $10,000, a forged land deed, and the crushing realization that I'd destroyed my own future. I'm 63 now. I live in a boarding house in Cebu City, a single room with a shared bathroom, 4,000 pesos a month, about $73. My savings are gone, my retirement destroyed, my U.S. pension became tangled in the fraud investigation because I'd made large international transfers. The bank flagged my account, and the pension administrator froze payments pending resolution. It took months to straighten out, and by then, I was living on nothing. My kids found out what happened. Rachel cried on the phone, asking how I could have been so stupid. Tyler was furious, saying I'd thrown away their inheritance. I had no defense. They were right. I haven't spoken to them in 6 months. I survive on odd jobs. I teach English to local students for 200 pesos an hour, about $3.60. I help other expats with paperwork, translations, advice. I fix things in the boarding house in exchange for reduced rent. It's barely enough to eat. Most days, I sit in my room, staring at the ceiling, replaying every decision, every conversation, every moment I should have questioned but didn't. I've stopped going to expat meetups. I can't face the pity. I can't face the unspoken judgment. Everyone knows what happened. I'm the cautionary tale, the fool who lost everything. One day, a young American couple approached me at a cafe. The man introduced himself as Mark. "Hey, you're Jim, right? I heard about what happened to you. I'm really sorry, man." "Thanks. Can I ask you something? We're thinking about investing in a business here with my fiance's family. Do you have any advice?" I looked at them, young, hopeful, in love. The same way I'd been. "Don't do it," I said. "Don't invest a single dollar. Don't trust anyone, no matter how genuine they seem. If you ignore that advice, then at least protect yourself. Hire your own lawyer. Verify everything independently. Never put property in someone else's name." Mark nodded slowly. "But what if it's real? What if we miss out on a good opportunity?" "Then you miss out, but you'll still have your money. You'll still have your future." I don't know if he listened. Most people don't. I joined a local church's outreach program. Father Miguel, an elderly Filipino priest, lets me volunteer with their charity work, distributing food, helping with repairs, talking to people who've been forgotten by society. He knows my story. He doesn't judge. "You made a mistake," he told me once, "a big one, but you're still here. You can still help others avoid the same mistake." So that's what I do. I share my story. I warn newcomers. I tell them the truth that no one wants to hear, that loneliness makes you vulnerable, that desperation clouds judgment, that people can be incredibly convincing when they're lying. Most importantly, I tell them this: she didn't just steal my money, she made me destroy my own future. I handed it to her willingly, piece by piece, because I wanted so badly to believe that someone cared about me. That's the hardest truth to accept. I wasn't robbed at gunpoint. I wasn't forced. I chose this. I saw what I wanted to see, ignored what I didn't, and convinced myself that this time, things would be different. They weren't. The Philippine authorities have made some efforts to combat romance scams, but enforcement is weak, and scammers operate with relative impunity. Rochelle Navarro, if that was even her real name, is still out there, probably using a different name, a different story, targeting another lonely man who just wants to feel like he matters. I hope he's smarter than I was, but I doubt it, because when you're desperate for connection, when you're tired of being alone, when someone finally makes you feel seen, you'll believe anything. You'll ignore every red flag, you'll transfer every dollar. And then, one day, you'll stand on an empty lot, staring at nothing, realizing that the person you loved never existed. That's where I am now, living in the wreckage of my own bad decisions, surviving, but not really living, existing in a country that promised paradise, but delivered hell. My advice to anyone considering a similar path: take your time, verify everything, protect yourself legally, don't let emotions override common sense. And if you find yourself transferring large amounts of money to someone you've known for less than a year, stop, walk away, lose the relationship if you have to, because losing a relationship hurts. But losing everything, your savings, your future, your dignity, that destroys you. I'm living proof of that. If you found this story important, please subscribe to this channel. These stories are based on real experiences and serve as critical warnings. Your support helps me continue creating these cautionary tales that might save someone from making the same mistakes I did. Thank you for watching, and please, trust carefully.